An absolute clinic by your Purdue Boilermakers. They win the championship in the Bahamas, a 30-point drubbing on a top 15 team in the country. We're going to be talking about it all here on Boilers in the Stands postgame show starting right now. And we are back here on Boilers in the Stands postgame show edition, championship edition, as the Purdue Boilermakers win the tournament in the Bahamas as they take down Memphis yesterday. And then tonight was a much easier affair as they faced the number 15 team in the country in Texas Tech and completely hand it to them as they win by 30 points. At one point at the end of the first half, go on a 23-3 run before the halftime buzzer. And we're going to get into instant reactions and everything else. I am your host, Greg Braggs Jr. Alongside me, as always, is Joe Jackson. Craig Bowers is in the Bahamas. Got to see everything firsthand, which was certainly a lot of fun. I'm not sure he's going to be able to join tonight as he's got to catch a flight as soon as the press conferences are over. But we'll continue to give you coverage from there as well, or just make sure you're following everything Craig's doing from there in the Caribbean as well. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as Purdue moves to 6-0 on the season. I mean, quickly for me, I'll just say this much. That was one of the most impressive displays of basketball I have seen Purdue play ever. I mean, honestly, and that's going all the way through all the Edey years, Jaden Ivey years, the Travion Williams years, the Isaac Haas years, and this golden era of basketball has been going on a long time. But tonight was one of the more impressive displays of basketball on both ends of the court, and I think that's what stands out. We've seen games where Purdue, hits 23s. We've seen games where they have a good defensive effort, dominant defensive effort even, but I have rarely seen them put together a full 40 minutes of basketball the way they did tonight. They were surgical on the offensive end. They were dominant on the defensive end. Everything came together. All the things we've talked about in terms of the potential of this team's lineup really just came all together in one game here tonight against Texas Tech, and it was impressive to watch. And so now Purdue will come back home and start to take care of business at Mackey Arena as we continue through non-conference play. Joe, I'm sure you'll be able to break a little bit down on the board. We'll talk about individual plays, but this was an impressive win for Purdue to put on their resume as they try to build this thing up to get to March Madness.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, right, we know what Texas Tech is, and maybe they're going to struggle a little bit early and still try to find their ways as they try to replace some players. But, I mean, they almost knocked off Illinois at home. They beat a solid Wake Forest team yesterday. This isn't just a game where Purdue should win by margin. It was a game where probably felt like it should have been somewhat close, even if Purdue did have the advantage. But Purdue dominated. Like any game like this where, I mean, I guess I don't know. I won't speak for all Purdue fans, but how I was feeling in the second half was just like TKR and Clough and Jacobson were diving for some loose balls with like 10 minutes left. And I was like, we can live without those right now. And you're just kind of counting down the minutes till the walk-ons come on. When the only thing you can really think about is like, all right, just don't get hurt in the second half. That's just how you know how impressive of a game this was. By far the best defensive performance we've seen from Purdue this season, probably better than any that we saw last season from Purdue as well. I know they had their little stretch kind of in January where it was really good, but nothing to this capacity, especially when you figure in like Texas Tech is similar to Purdue in the sense that they're a team that's more offensive balanced, right? They were a top 10 offense in KenPom going into the game and like 30 something defensively. And Purdue just didn't they just did whatever they wanted. The defensive rotations, the defensive energy, the defensive communication was by far the best it's been all season. This is kind of who Purdue's going to be. We'll break it down on the board in a sec once we start diving in a little bit more. But just, I mean, utter dominance from this team. Basically from what, like 4-2 3 to 4 minutes in, Texas Tech hit a couple threes early, and it was looking close. And then Purdue just absolutely dominated. I believe there was like a 13-minute stretch where Texas Tech scored 3 points, I believe, between like the last 7 minutes of the first half and first 6 of the second half, or something along those lines. Really, really impressive stuff. This was the game. This was the first game where Purdue absolutely looked like the best team in the country. They had the Bama win. Yeah. What else is there to say other than this was just incredibly impressive?
Really was. And when you talk about that stretch, we can talk about the 3-pointers, and they were all getting in on the action. I think all starters finished in double figures in points. Fletcher Lawyer started to rain fire on them at the end of the first half. CJ Cox carried over his hot shooting from last night to tonight to start the game, really set the tone. But really, you have to look at that run, that 23-3 run to end the first half, and how they started the second half. The defensive performance was so incredible to watch, so impressive to watch. And maybe you'll be able to point out what they were doing, that was unique specifically on the board. But for me, it was really just their foundational rules that they always play with on defense. And Texas Tech just did not have an answer. And it goes to show you, when you are moving your feet, when you are rotating and staying with your assignments, and you're keeping your guys in front of you, Purdue's defense now with, Oscar Clough and Jack Benner and some different guys here that have some different assets or versatility or strength, toughness, whatever you want to say that brings to the table. They just have so many different options, and there's no let off with who you bring off the bench as well. So these rotations just kind of keep coming at you. But from a defensive standpoint, like we've all seen it a million times, they double the post, they allow the kick out, and then they rotate defensively. And there was one possession in particular where it started in the post, they kicked it out, CJ Cox goes out and covers it. So then they move the ball around the perimeter, Texas Tech, and Purdue just kept chasing them off. So then they tried to get it back into the post. Purdue doubled the post again. They tried to kick it out, and there was nothing they could do. And so then as possessions kept going on, they started throwing the ball out of bounds, because at one point, Braden kind of tricked them where he was like kind of testing them to see if he was going to do the skip pass to the 3-point corner. Instead, he makes a last-second decision, Texas Tech does, to throw it to the middle of the court. It sails over his head out of bounds. And that was just the complete mind warp that Purdue had Texas Tech in. And it compounds for Texas Tech when Purdue's being surgical on the other end offensively, whether it's 3-point balls going in or Oscar Clough just completely dominating or cleaning up the glass, getting every single rebound in his sight. And that's what I mean. I like, to your point of tonight was the first night they really showed they were the number one team in the country. And maybe someone will be like, well, wait a minute. They beat Alabama at Alabama. That was a wholly impressive win. Tonight was the night that they put on full display all the hype we heard about all these different features that would bring to this Purdue lineup, from Oscar Clough to Omer Meyer to Jack Benter and Daniel Jacobson, and so many different options outside of Braden Smith, who he could have just slept on the beach these last 2 days, and they probably still would have found. I say that a little tongue in cheek. I know, he racked up the assist total last night against Memphis, but to the point, like, you really didn't get that much out of Braden Smith, and they're still out there dominating, especially tonight. And it's just Braden sat the last 9 minutes of the game. I'm like, man, he could be chasing the assist record right now. Instead, nope, just take a seat. They bring in the walk-ons at the 4-minute and 18-minute mark of the game against a top 15 team in the country. So sure, we'll go into team stats. We'll look at the minutes chart. We'll look at there's really nothing left to say other than tonight was one of the more impressive performances in program history. And tonight showed why this team is looking at a march to Indianapolis. And I heard some people early on when they were struggling and they lose to Kentucky in an exhibition game and they weren't looking perfect, like, people stop talking about Indianapolis. No, this team has a mission. And if they're looking this good right now, there is going to be a whole nother level of this. I know it from everything I've seen from a Matt Painter program over the last 10 years. I know there will be a whole nother level to this team by the time we get to February and March. It's going to be an exciting year, and I'm excited for everybody in the chat and everybody that follows this program to hang out with us while we go through this journey, because they're great, man. They're so much fun to watch. Tonight was basketball poetry.
It's like after yesterday's game, we were like, what is there really to take away with how ugly and just weird the game was? And it's almost the opposite tonight. It's like, what is there to take away other than Purdue is just like they weren't even in the same class as Texas Tech today. Like Texas Tech wasn't even close. And so it gets tough to like take anything major away other than, hey, Purdue is really good. Purdue, I guess for me, it is good to see Purdue have this level. They're not going to hit this level every single game, right? It's not going to happen. But just knowing that they have this gear to them that they can tap into come March, like that's the big thing to me. Through both of these games, they showed yesterday they can win a dogfight, scrappy game against a super athletic team, super long and athletic team, and they showed today that if it's going to be more of a skill finesse game, they're going to dominate that one. Across the board, impressive stuff. Ken Palm updated. They're up to 21st in defense for anybody that kind of is keeping track of that. Generally, the mark is top 30. I will say right now that is not at all a hard number. If they are 38th in the country defensively at the end of the season, they absolutely can still win the championship. Don't let any stats or anything tell you otherwise, but just crazy impressive. And then also, this offense is historically good. Like I said it in the offseason, like, hey, this offense could be, and I'm just ready to say it, like, historically good this offense will be. I believe they're the second or third best in Ken Palm history right now in terms of offense, and it should only get better. And like you said, Braden goes, 4 of 7. He has 10 points, just kind of 10 double digits across the board, 7 players get into it. So we can get into some of the more specifics right now, but just, I mean, Purdue doesn't play for a week. You get to enjoy Thanksgiving now, knowing Purdue just did this, and it's a good win in more than one way.
Well, and I'll say this much too. I was, as much as we all, root for Miles Colvin, who really set the tone to start the night, hitting the game-winning 3 over Memphis. They run the Bryce Drew play. They're down 2 with 1.5 seconds left on the clock. They throw it the length of the court to the big man, kick out to 3. Miles Colvin buries the 3 to win the game at the buzzer, and all the Boilers fans chanting Colvin, and Colvin gets a really special moment for him, and we're all rooting for him and his endeavors as he goes forward in his collegiate career. It just didn't work out for him at Purdue, but at the same time, it's all love for Miles, and that set the tone. And now you move on to this game, and it's just one of those things where again, you appreciate these kind of wins. So the other thing I'll say too, when you talk about KenPom, I just feel like it sometimes can be a little skewed. I was saying this in the second half. If they had kept up with the same intensity that they were playing with for the first 25 minutes of the game, they let off the ropes. So I don't know how KenPom kind of looks at those kind of things, but to me, their defensive metrics should soar from a game like this, even if there was some points. I mean, the last 15 minutes of the game were a wash. So, like, how does that work in terms of the scoring that happens in that kind of game? So sometimes I think those metrics can be skewed because of a game like tonight, right? Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
I mean, a little bit. It definitely takes into account, though, that they won by 30 points. I mean, Purdue's defense jumped 27 spots defensively to just off of this game, I believe. Something like that. So they jumped from like 48th to 21st. And honestly, like if Purdue plays this level of defense every game, they are a top 20 defense. I would argue 21st is probably a little bit high for what they really are. Just being realistic for a second, but we can get into the defensive rotations and stuff. It was really impressive stuff from Purdue.